For 15 years, the people of the Benin Kingdom lived in fear of one name: the leopard. No one knew where he came from, no one had ever seen his face, and no matter how many soldiers searched for him, he always disappeared without a trace. Some believed he was only a myth, others swore he walked with the ancestors, but one thing was certain: whenever the leopard struck, he always left behind the same silent warning: a tiny bronze leopard. One night, his eyes fell on the richest man in the kingdom, Chief Ogie. His mansion overflowed with gold, priceless coral beads, rare bronze treasures, and riches beyond imagination. Surely, this time, the leopard would leave with enough wealth to make any man a king. But when darkness covered the kingdom, the mysterious thief quietly slipped inside. He walked past the gold, ignored the coral beads, left every precious jewel untouched. Instead, he reached for one old ceremonial object that no one had looked at for years. He carefully wrapped it, placed it inside his satchel, and before disappearing into the night, he left behind a tiny bronze leopard. At sunrise, Chief Osamede's mansion erupted into chaos. Servants searched every room, villagers gathered in disbelief. The chief demanded to know what had been stolen. But while everyone stared at the bronze leopard, one palace guard noticed something no one else had. The kingdom's greatest treasures were still exactly where they had been. If the leopard wasn't stealing wealth, then what was he really searching for? And why did this forgotten object matter more than all the gold in the kingdom? The leopard's latest robbery shook the Benin Kingdom like never before. Fear spread from one street to another. In every marketplace, in every home, people whispered the same question: who would be next? But while the kingdom searched for the mysterious thief, one palace guard searched for something far more important: the truth. Ogie gathered every robbery report he could find. He spread maps across his table, compared witness accounts, and carefully searched for the one clue everyone else had missed. That very night, the leopard struck again. He slipped silently into the mansion of another wealthy family. He walked past chests filled with gold, ignored priceless coral beads, left every valuable jewel untouched. Instead, he calmly picked up another old forgotten object, wrapped it carefully, and disappeared without a sound. As always, he left behind a tiny bronze leopard. By sunrise, panic had taken over the mansion. Servants and palace guards searched every room. The family counted every piece of treasure they owned. But Ogie wasn't interested in what remained. He wanted to know what was missing. Back inside the palace archives, he pinned every robbery onto a map of the kingdom. One by one, a pattern began to appear. He laid the names of every victim side by side, then suddenly stopped. This wasn't random. Every family the leopard had robbed belonged to one of the kingdom's oldest and most powerful bloodlines. It couldn't be a coincidence. Meanwhile, deep within the forest, the leopard returned to his secret shelter. With his back turned to the darkness, he unfolded a faded cloth covered in strange ancient symbols, studied it in complete silence. As the fire slowly faded, so did every answer. The kingdom believed they were hunting a thief, but what if they were chasing a man with a far greater purpose? Hidden deep within the forest. As the first light of dawn crept through the trees, the leopard remained seated before the dying embers of his campfire. With his back turned to the world, he quietly unfolded the faded cloth covered in strange ancient symbols. His fingers traced every mark with careful attention, as though remembering something from long ago. Then, the memory came rushing back. Many years earlier, that very same cloth looked almost new. It rested safely in the hands of a trusted palace messenger, who rode alone through the forest on an important mission. But the deeper he traveled, the more uneasy he became. It was as if danger was hiding among the trees. Suddenly, the messenger urged his horse forward. He knew someone was following him. Desperate to protect what he carried, he pushed onward until his strength finally gave way beneath the ancient trees. His satchel fell beside him. But with his last bit of strength, he reached inside and pulled out the mysterious cloth. Not far away, a young orphan named Ogie wandered through the forest, gathering firewood for another difficult day. Then he heard a faint voice calling for help. He rushed toward the sound and found the exhausted messenger beneath the towering tree. The messenger looked into the boy's eyes and saw someone he could trust. He gently placed the folded cloth into Osarugwe's trembling hands. Then he spoke softly. Listen carefully. One day they will search for gold. They will search for power. But the kingdom is searching for the wrong treasure. When the time is right, follow the symbols. Osarugwe held the cloth tightly against his chest, his eyes fixed on the strange markings, knowing his life had just changed forever. But he had no idea that this single moment would one day shape the greatest mystery the Benin Kingdom had ever known. What if the greatest treasure in the Benin Kingdom wasn't treasure at all? That single question refused to leave Ogie's mind. For days, he buried himself inside the palace archives, reading every robbery report again and again. This time, he ignored the gold, the jewels, and focused only on what had disappeared. An old bronze bell, an ancient ivory bracelet, a forgotten ceremonial pendant. Different families, different homes, yet every missing object shared the same story. Old, forgotten, worthless. At least, that's what their owners believed. The more Ogie investigated, the more convinced he became. The leopard wasn't stealing the kingdom's wealth. He had been collecting something far older. Determined to uncover the truth, Ogie sought out the kingdom's oldest royal historian. The old man listened in silence as every robbery was carefully described. Then, without saying a word, he reached for a dusty scroll that had remained untouched for generations. As it slowly unfolded across the table, Ogie's heart nearly stopped. There, drawn centuries earlier, were the very same objects stolen by the leopard. One after another, exactly as they had been described. The historian stared at the ancient drawings in disbelief. For generations, these objects had been hidden in plain sight. Not lost, forgotten. Then something else caught his attention. Ancient symbols, running along the edge of the scroll, symbols he never expected to see again. Far away, deep within the forest, the leopard carefully uncovered one of the wrapped objects, an ancient bronze bell. He gently brushed off the dust, then unfolded the mysterious cloth once more. The kingdom believed it was hunting a thief, but what if it was witnessing the return of a forgotten legacy? What if everything the Benin Kingdom believed was a lie? That question consumed Ogie's every waking moment. Back inside the palace archives, he searched through forgotten records once more. Then he found something impossible. An entire section of the kingdom's history had been deliberately torn away. Someone hadn't wanted it forgotten by time. Someone had wanted it erased. Certain that the answer lay elsewhere, Ogie returned to the royal historian. Together, they searched through records untouched for generations. At last, the old man uncovered a sealed parchment hidden inside an ancient carved case. As it slowly opened, a forgotten piece of history came back to life. The painting showed 6 noble families standing proudly together, but they were not alone. Beside them stood a mysterious guardian, his face hidden beneath a leopard-patterned ceremonial mantle. Ogie stared in silence. Who was he? The historian's voice grew quiet. The kingdom had forgotten his name, but never his title. The leopard. The title had existed long before the thief everyone was hunting. Far beyond the kingdom walls, deep inside the forest. The leopard carefully uncovered the 5 royal heirlooms he had spent years recovering. The ancient bronze bell, the ivory ceremonial bracelet, the bronze pendant, the royal staff head, the coral ceremonial seal. He arranged them carefully around the mysterious cloth. Only one space remained empty. One final heirloom, still missing. Then, beneath the moonlit palace, hidden inside the king's private ceremonial chamber, rested an ancient bronze royal crown. Untouched, protected, waiting. The final heirloom had been inside the palace all along, and for the first time, the kingdom was closer than ever to discovering the truth. Before the first light touched the Benin Kingdom, the impossible happened once again. The king's private ceremonial chamber had been entered. The ancient bronze ceremonial crown was gone. No doors were broken, no guards saw anyone, no treasures were disturbed. Only one thing remained, a tiny bronze leopard. As fear spread through the palace, Ogie already knew where to go. Together with the royal historian, he journeyed deep into the forest. There, waiting beside a quiet campfire, sat the leopard. His back turned, as always. For the first time in generations, the 6 royal heirlooms were together again. The leopard placed each heirloom into its rightful position around the faded cloth. The cloth had never been a map. It had never led to hidden riches. It was a sacred promise passed from one guardian to the next. Its purpose was simple: to ensure the kingdom would never lose its history, its identity. The historian lowered his head, not before a thief, but before the man who had carried a promise for an entire lifetime. Without saying a single word, the leopard carefully wrapped the heirlooms once again. Then, he placed them into the historian's hands, not as a gift, but as a responsibility. The leopard was never stealing from the kingdom. He was saving it. As the morning mist drifted through the trees, the leopard turned, walked into the forest, and disappeared without ever looking back. Years passed. The kingdom remembered its forgotten history. The 6 royal heirlooms were preserved with the honor they deserved. The story of the mysterious leopard became nothing more than an old legend. At least, that's what people believed. Until one night, a wealthy noble looked upon one of the sacred heirlooms and saw only money. He stole the ancient bronze ceremonial pendant, wrapped it inside a blue ceremonial cloth, and hid it away. The next morning, he returned with a smile, certain that no one knew. He slowly unfolded the cloth. The pendant was gone. Resting quietly in its place was a tiny bronze leopard. Some say the leopard vanished long ago. Others say he never truly existed. But the elders tell a different story. Whenever the kingdom forgets what is truly sacred, the Leopard of Benin returns.